When we talk about business books that have shaped the way millions of people think about money, negotiation, and success, few titles spark as much curiosity and debate as The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. First published in 1987, this book quickly became a bestseller. Some saw it as a blueprint for ambitious entrepreneurs, while others criticized it as self-promotion. But regardless of opinion, one fact is clear. The Art of the Deal left a lasting impact on business literature, pop culture, and the way people think about negotiation and risk-taking. So why, after more than 3 decades, is this book still relevant? Because the core principles it discusses, thinking big, managing risks, creating leverage, building a personal brand, and using the media effectively, are timeless. Whether you are building a company, negotiating a salary, or simply trying to gain an advantage in everyday life, the lessons inside this book still apply, and that's exactly what we're going to explore today. To understand the relevance of The Art of the Deal, we need to look beyond the personality of Donald Trump and focus on the principles. Politics aside, this book captures a mindset, the mindset of playing the game of business at the highest level. Think about the world today. We live in a time when attention is the new currency. Social media has turned branding into an essential skill. Opportunities move fast, and those who hesitate often miss them. In this environment, many of the strategies from The Art of the Deal seem surprisingly modern, even though they were written in the 1980s. For example, Trump emphasized the importance of media exposure. Today, entrepreneurs and influencers use Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube the same way he once used newspapers and television. He talked about leverage, the ability to use one advantage to gain another. Today, leverage is about technology, networks, and access to information. He stressed the value of thinking big. That principle is the foundation of every ambitious startup, every bold career move, and every new disruptive idea. That's why people still read this book. It's not about copying Trump's exact deals or real estate strategies. It's about adopting a mindset that pushes you to see opportunities, to take risks, and to play the game with confidence. When The Art of the Deal was released in 1987, Donald Trump was not yet the global figure we know today. He wasn't a politician, nor was he a television celebrity. He was, above all, a real estate developer with a growing reputation in New York City. By that time, Trump had already achieved several high-profile projects. The transformation of the Commodore Hotel into the Grand Hyatt, a project that helped establish his credibility as a major player in real estate. The development of Trump Tower on 5th 82 Avenue, which quickly became not only a luxury building but also a symbol of his brand. Negotiations involving casinos and other major properties, which showed his ambition to expand beyond New York. These achievements gave him a platform. But Trump understood that business success alone wasn't enough. He wanted recognition. He wanted his name to be synonymous with wealth, ambition, and big deals. That's where The Art of the Deal comes in. The book wasn't just a memoir or a manual. It was part of a broader branding strategy. By sharing his principles and showcasing his deals, Trump positioned himself not only as a businessman but also as a personality, someone whose way of thinking deserved attention. And it worked. The book spent weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. It sold millions of copies, and, most importantly, it introduced Trump to an audience far beyond the real estate world. From that moment on, Trump wasn't just a developer, he was a brand. As we dive deeper into this book, remember this: the power of The Art of the Deal lies in its principles. You don't need to be a billionaire. You don't need to build skyscrapers or run casinos. But you do need to understand how to think strategically, how to negotiate with confidence, and how to see opportunities where others only see risks. This introduction has set the stage. We now know why the book matters, why it remains relevant, and where Trump stood in his career when he decided to share his story. Next, we'll explore the first major principle of the art of the deal, thinking big. Chapter 1. Thinking, Big One of the First Principles. Donald Trump highlights in The Art of the Deal is deceptively simple yet incredibly powerful. Think big. At first glance, this sounds like a motivational slogan you might find on a poster in a corporate office. But in Trump's context, it meant much more than just having ambition. It was about adopting a mindset where small goals were not even worth the effort. If you're going to invest your time, your energy, and your reputation, why settle for something modest when you could aim for something monumental? The core idea behind thinking big for Trump, thinking big was not just about the size of a project or the amount of money involved. It was about vision. It was about creating something that would stand out, capture attention, and generate long-term impact. He argued that small goals and big goals require almost the same amount of effort. If you're negotiating, planning, or investing, you're already putting in energy. So why not aim for something that could change the game, rather than just moving the needle slightly? This principle challenges the way most people think. Many of us are conditioned to play it safe, to aim for modest improvements, and to avoid standing out too much. Trump's philosophy was the opposite. Standing out was the point. If you wanted to make deals that mattered, if you wanted to build a brand that people remembered, you had to go big enough that no one could ignore you. Examples from Trump's career at the time of writing The Art of the Deal. Trump already had several examples that illustrated this mindset. Trump Tower. Instead of building a standard office building, Trump envisioned a mixed-use skyscraper with luxury apartments, high-end retail, and a striking architectural design. His goal wasn't just to fill space, it was to create an icon on Fifth Avenue. Today, Trump Tower is not just a building, it's a global landmark. The Grand Hyatt Hotel. Many developers would have been satisfied with simply renovating the old Commodore Hotel. Trump thought bigger. He wanted to transform it into a symbol of New York's resurgence. By partnering with Hyatt, he turned a struggling property into one of the city's premier hotels. Sports and casinos. Trump's ventures into Atlantic City were also bold. Instead of small investments, he went after massive casino projects that would dominate the skyline and the market. In each case, the projects required enormous amounts of money, negotiations, and risk. But Trump believed that if you're going to dream, you might as well dream big. Why most people don't think big? If thinking big is so powerful, why don't more people do it? Trump addressed this indirectly in his book, Fear of Failure. Most people don't think big because they're afraid of what happens if they fall short. Failure feels worse when your goals are public and ambitious. Comfort zones. Many are satisfied with small wins because they feel safe, but safety rarely leads to greatness. Lack of vision. Thinking big requires imagination. It requires seeing things that don't yet exist. Not everyone has trained themselves to think this way. Cultural conditioning. Society often rewards modesty. Big ambitions are sometimes criticized as arrogance. Trump embraced that criticism because he knew it set him apart. By contrast, Trump saw big goals as motivating. The bigger the vision, the more energy it created, both for him and for those around him. Lessons for today's entrepreneurs and professionals. Even if you're not building skyscrapers, thinking big applies to your life and career. Career moves. Instead of aiming for a small raise, why not aim for a leadership position? Business ideas. Instead of starting a business just to survive, why not design it to dominate a niche or even disrupt an industry? Personal branding. Instead of blending in with everyone in your field, why not create a unique voice that makes people remember you? In today's digital age, thinking big also means scalability. Thanks to the internet, a single idea can reach millions of people. A YouTube channel, an app, or a product can go global in weeks. That's thinking big in action. The psychology of thinking big. Psychologists often talk about the self-fulfilling prophecy. When you set small goals, your brain finds ways to justify staying small. When you set big goals, your brain starts looking for bigger solutions. Trump intuitively understood this. By setting bold targets, he forced himself to stretch his imagination, his network, and his negotiation skills. The size of the vision dictated the size of the effort. And here's the key. Small goals attract small opportunities. Big goals attract big opportunities. People want to be part of something exciting. Investors, employees, and even customers are drawn to bold visions. That's why leaders who think big often find it easier to attract support. Critics of thinking big. Of course, thinking big also has its critics. Some argue that Trump's big thinking sometimes led to overconfidence, debt, or overexposure. Others point out that not all of his projects succeeded, but here's the paradox. Without thinking big, none of the successful projects would have existed either. Failure is part of the process. For Trump, the occasional failure was a price worth paying for the possibility of monumental success. That's an important lesson. Thinking big does not guarantee success, but it guarantees that you're playing a bigger game, and that's often where breakthroughs happen. How to apply thinking big in your life. Here are some practical ways to bring this principle into your own world. Redefine your goals. If your current goal feels safe, ask yourself, what would a 10x version of this goal look like? Change your environment. Surround yourself with people who think bigger than you. Ambition is contagious. Visualize bold outcomes. Instead of focusing on obstacles, picture what success would look like on a grand scale. Take calculated risks. Thinking big doesn't mean being reckless. It means being strategic with larger opportunities. Leverage attention. Don't hide your ambitions. Share them. Bold visions attract partners and opportunities. Closing thoughts on thinking big. Thinking big was not just a slogan for Donald Trump. It was a guiding principle that shaped his career, his projects, and his brand. Whether you agree with him or not, you can't deny that his bold visions created real impact, and the lesson for us is clear. If you're going to play the game of business, or even the game of life, why play small? As Trump himself might put it, if you're going to be thinking anyway, you might as well think big. Chapter 2. Protect the downside and the upside. Will take care of itself. One of the most practical principles in the art of the deal is Trump's rule of always protecting the downside. In simple terms, it means, before you chase the reward, make sure you can handle the risk. At first, this might sound almost contradictory to the previous chapter about thinking big. After all, big dreams usually come with big risks. But Trump's philosophy combines both ideas. Dream big, but don't let a single mistake wipe you out. This balance between bold vision and cautious protection is one of the reasons he was able to attempt such massive projects. He was willing to bet big, but only if the worst-case scenario was survivable. The core idea. Risk management. Every deal, every project, and every opportunity comes with uncertainty. Most people either ignore the risks because they're too excited about the rewards, or avoid the opportunity entirely because the risks feel overwhelming. Trump's approach was different. He embraced risk, but he analyzed it carefully. He asked himself, what's the worst that can happen here? And if it happens, can I live with it? If the answer was yes, he would move forward aggressively. If the answer was no, he would walk away, no matter how attractive the upside looked. This principle gave him a foundation of security. It meant that even if some deals failed, he would always be in the game to try again. Examples from Trump's deals. The Commodore Hotel. When Trump took on the failing Commodore Hotel in New York, the risks were enormous. But he negotiated terms that shifted much of that risk away from himself. By partnering with Hyatt and securing tax breaks from the city, he reduced his financial exposure. The worst-case scenario, losing the hotel entirely, would not have ruined him personally. Trump tower building a skyscraper on Fifth Avenue was a huge risk. But again, Trump protected the downside by negotiating favorable financing, pre-selling luxury spaces, and locking in strong demand before construction was complete. Casino projects in Atlantic City casinos are notoriously risky ventures. Trump's strategy was to acquire properties where he could limit his exposure by using borrowed money, partnerships, and careful negotiations with contractors. Even when the casino industry faced downturns, his personal downside was less than it might have been if he had taken all the risk himself. Why protecting the downside matters. There's a famous saying in investing. Rule number 1. Don't lose money. Rule number 2. Never forget rule number 1. That idea matches Trump's philosophy. If you lose too much, you're out of the game. But if you protect yourself from the worst outcomes, you can keep playing. And eventually, the upside will come. Think of it like this. A business deal is not about winning once. It's about surviving long enough to win consistently. Protecting the downside ensures that you don't get knocked out of the game before your big success arrives. The psychology of downside protection. Protecting the downside also has a psychological advantage. When you know that the worst-case scenario is under control, you can operate with more confidence. You can negotiate more boldly, you can take bigger swings, and you can think more creatively. Fear is the enemy of good decision-making. If you're terrified of losing everything, you'll either hesitate too much or act recklessly. But if you've secured your downside, you can act from a position of strength. Lessons for today's world. In today's fast-moving economy, the principle of protecting the downside applies everywhere. Startups. Entrepreneurs often fail because they bet everything on a single product. Protecting the downside means testing ideas before going all in or building multiple revenue streams. Investing. Wise investors diversify their portfolios. They don't put all their money in one risky bet. Careers. Professionals can protect their downside by continually learning new skills, so if one job disappears, they can pivot to another. Personal finance. Having an emergency fund is the simplest form of protecting your downside. It ensures you won't collapse if something unexpected happens. The balance between risk and reward. It's important to note that Trump wasn't suggesting people avoid risk entirely. In fact, he often pursued deals that looked too risky to outsiders. The difference was how he structured them. He looked for creative ways to shift the risk, partnerships that shared the burden, contracts that locked in favorable terms, financing strategies that limited his exposure. By protecting the downside, he allowed himself to pursue outsized opportunities. In other words, he combined caution with boldness. Practical steps to apply this principle. Identify the worst-case scenario. Always start by asking, what's the absolute worst that could happen here? Decide if you can survive it. If the worst happens, will you still be able to recover? Find ways to minimize the risk. Can you share the risk with partners, negotiate better terms, or limit your exposure? Only take calculated risks. If the downside is manageable, move forward confidently. Repeat the process. Make this a habit for every major decision. Critics of this approach. Some critics argue that Trump's way of protecting the downside sometimes meant transferring risks to others, such as banks or contractors. While that may be true in some cases, the principle itself remains valid. The smartest players always find ways to shield themselves while still moving forward, and in business, this strategy is not about being unfair, it's about being strategic. If you can protect yourself while offering value to others, everyone wins. Closing thoughts on protecting the downside. At its heart, this principle is about staying in the game long enough to win. Big goals will always carry risk, but if you can identify and contain that risk, you give yourself room to pursue opportunities others are too afraid to touch. That's why Trump believed so strongly in this rule. It wasn't about avoiding risk, it was about managing it so that the potential upside could shine through. In the next chapter, we'll build on this foundation by looking at another key principle: maximize your options. Chapter 3. Maximize your options. If there's one thing Donald Trump never wanted in business, it was to be trapped. In The Art of the Deal, he shares a principle that shaped nearly every decision he made. Always maximize your options. In business, as in life, options equal power. When you have multiple paths forward, you can negotiate from a position of strength. When you have only one option, you're vulnerable, and vulnerability is dangerous in any negotiation. The core idea: flexibility over certainty. Many people crave certainty. They want one clear path, one clear answer, one clear deal. But Trump argued that certainty can be a trap. The more you commit too early, the more leverage you give away. By contrast, when you keep multiple options open, you maintain flexibility. Create leverage in negotiations. Give yourself the ability to pivot if circumstances change. Trump's mindset was clear. Never box yourself into a corner. Always leave room to maneuver. Examples from Trump's deals. Real estate negotiations. In real estate, Trump often pursued multiple properties at the same time. If one deal fell apart, he still had other opportunities. Sellers quickly realized he wasn't desperate, which gave him leverage. Financing strategies. Trump rarely relied on just one bank. By keeping several financing options on the table, he could play lenders against each other, often securing better terms. Building uses. When developing buildings, Trump often kept flexibility in mind. A property could be sold, rented, or repurposed depending on market conditions. This adaptability meant he could pivot quickly if the original plan didn't work. Why options matter in negotiation? Negotiation is a game of leverage, and leverage comes from having alternatives. Think about it. If you're negotiating for a job and you have only one offer, you're stuck with whatever terms they give you. If you have 3 offers, suddenly you have bargaining power. The same applies to business, deals, investments, and even personal relationships. Trump understood this deeply. He knew that when people believed he had other options, they were more likely to give him favorable terms. The psychology of options don't just create practical advantages. They create psychological ones. When you know you're not locked into one outcome, you feel more relaxed. You negotiate with confidence. On the other hand, when you feel trapped, fear takes over. You're more likely to accept unfavorable terms just to avoid losing your only option. Trump's philosophy was to remove that fear by always keeping multiple paths open. Lessons for today's entrepreneurs and professionals. This principle is timeless. Whether you're building a business, managing your career, or making personal decisions, maximizing your options gives you resilience and power. In business, don't depend on one customer, one supplier, or one product. Diversify your opportunities. In careers, don't depend on a single job. Build a network, keep learning skills, and stay open to new industries. In investments, don't put all your money into one asset. Spread your risk. In life, don't tie your happiness to a single outcome. Options create freedom. Critics. Of this approach, some critics argue that keeping too many options open can lead to indecision. If you never commit, you may never fully succeed. Trump's counterbalance to this was timing. He kept his options open until the moment was right. Once he saw the best opportunity, he committed fully. The key is to delay commitment until it maximizes your advantage, but not so long that the opportunity disappears. Practical steps to apply this principle. Always have alternatives. Before any major decision, list at least 2 backup options. Don't show desperation. Even if you have only one option, act as if you have more. Keep negotiating multiple deals. Don't stop looking just because one opportunity looks good. Diversify your efforts. Don't build your entire future on one fragile foundation. Commit at the right moment. Once you've maximized your leverage, choose decisively. A modern application. Digital economy. Today's entrepreneurs can maximize options more easily than ever before. For example, a content creator doesn't need just one platform. They can distribute on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and podcasts. A startup doesn't need one funding source. They can explore venture capital, crowdfunding, or bootstrapping. A freelancer doesn't need one client. They can work with several at once. The digital world has expanded the ability to create and maintain options. The smartest players use that to their advantage. Closing thoughts on maximizing options, this principle boils down to a simple truth. The more choices you have, the more power you hold. Donald Trump's career, love him or hate him, illustrates the value of never being cornered. By keeping multiple options alive, he gave himself the freedom to negotiate hard, pivot when needed, and stay in control. And for us, the lesson is clear. Don't put yourself in a position where one yes or one no defines your entire future. Build options, and you'll build power. In the next chapter, we'll explore another critical principle. Know your market. Chapter 4. Know your market. If there's one rule that separates amateurs from professionals in business, it's this. Know your market. In The Art of the Deal, Donald Trump makes it clear that understanding the market is non-negotiable. You can have the boldest vision, the smartest strategy, and even the best team. But if you misread the market, you're building on sand. Trump believed that deals are won or lost long before the contract is signed. The real battle is fought in preparation. Researching demand, understanding customers, analyzing competitors, and recognizing where the opportunities really are. The core idea. Information is, power markets are ecosystems. They have players, rules, and patterns. If you step in blindly, you're gambling. But if you know the terrain, you can tilt the odds in your favor. For Trump, knowing the market meant more than just reading reports. It meant walking the streets, talking to people, studying trends, and trusting his instincts built on observation. Numbers mattered, but so did gut feeling, and gut feeling was sharpened by constant exposure to the market itself. Examples from Trump's career. Trump Tower. When Trump decided to build Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue, skeptics doubted the project. But Trump had studied the market closely. He saw that there was demand for high-end luxury residences combined with retail spaces in a prestigious location. He wasn't just guessing. He knew the appetite existed. Atlantic City Casinos. Trump entered the casino market at a time when Atlantic City was booming. He saw the opportunity early, before the market became overcrowded. By recognizing the timing and positioning himself ahead of competitors, he was able to capture attention and financing. The Grand Hyatt Hotel. When transforming the old Commodore Hotel into the Grand Hyatt, Trump identified a growing demand for modern, upscale accommodations in New York. He didn't just renovate a property, he aligned with market trends. Why most people ignore. Market research, despite its importance, many entrepreneurs underestimate the market. Why? Overconfidence. They believe their idea is so good it will succeed regardless of demand. Impatience. They want to act fast and skip the boring research phase. Assumptions. They project their own preferences onto customers, assuming others will think the same way. Fear of reality. Sometimes deep down they know the market won't support their idea, so they avoid the research that might confirm it. Trump avoided these traps by grounding his projects in research and observation. He wanted to know not just what people wanted today, but what they would want tomorrow. Lessons for today's entrepreneurs and professionals. Knowing your market is more crucial than ever in today's digital world. Startups. Before building a product, founders need to validate the demand. Tools like surveys, beta tests, and social listening help reveal the truth. Investors. Market analysis determines whether an investment is undervalued or overhyped. Content creators. Understanding what audiences search for, click on, and share is the difference between growth and obscurity. Professionals. Even in a career, knowing the market means understanding what skills are in demand and positioning yourself accordingly. The psychology of market awareness. Knowing your market also builds confidence. When you walk into a negotiation armed with knowledge, you're less likely to be manipulated. You know what's fair, what's inflated, and what's possible. It also builds credibility. Partners, investors, and clients trust people who clearly understand the playing field. Critics of market-driven thinking. Some critics argue that focusing too much on the market can kill innovation. After all, many groundbreaking products didn't exist because customers asked for them. They existed because visionaries created something people didn't even know they wanted. But even visionaries must understand the market. They don't. Ignore it. They reinterpret it. Apple didn't invent smartphones in a vacuum. They saw frustrations with existing phones and created a solution that aligned with hidden demand. Trump's principle isn't about blindly following trends. It's about being informed enough to recognize opportunities others miss. Practical steps to apply this principle. Do your research. Study reports, data, and case studies about your industry. Talk to people. Customers, competitors, and even critics can give insights. Observe trends. Watch for shifts in culture, technology, and demand. Validate assumptions. Don't trust your idea until you've tested it against real demand. Stay current. Markets change quickly. Make research an ongoing habit, not a one-time step. A modern application. Data and digital markets. Today, we have more tools than ever to know the market. Google Trends shows what people are searching for. Social media analytics reveal what content grabs attention. Customer reviews expose pain points and desires. AI tools can scan massive amounts of data to predict demand. Trump didn't have these tools in the 1980s, but his philosophy aligns perfectly with using them today. The principle remains timeless. The more you know, the stronger your position. Closing thoughts on knowing your market at its core, this principle is about respect. Respect for the game you're playing, respect for the people you're serving, and respect for the forces that shape success and failure. Donald Trump knew that without understanding the market, even the biggest dreams could collapse. But with knowledge, timing, and vision, opportunities could be turned into empires. The lesson for us is simple. Before you bet big, do your homework. Know the terrain. Know the players. Know the demand. Because in business, knowledge isn't just power, it's survival. In the next chapter, we'll explore another powerful principle: use leverage. Chapter 5. Use leverage. If there's one word that defines power in business, it's leverage. Donald Trump emphasizes this principle throughout The Art of the Deal. If you want to negotiate from strength, you must understand leverage. How to create it, how to use it, and how to protect it. Leverage means having something the other side wants, needs, or fears losing. It shifts the balance of power in your favor. Without leverage, you're just asking. With leverage, you're commanding. The core idea: control. Through influence, leverage isn't always about money. It can come in many forms. Scarcity. You control something rare. Demand. Many people want what you have. Timing. You can wait, but the other side cannot. Information. You know something they don't. Alternatives. You have other options. They don't. Trump mastered the art of recognizing and creating leverage. He knew that the person with the least to lose often has the most power. Examples from Trump's deals. The Commodore Hotel. Trump used political leverage. He convinced the city that revitalizing the hotel would boost the local economy. This gave him bargaining power to secure massive tax breaks. The city needed jobs and growth. Trump used that need as leverage. Trump Tower. When building Trump Tower, leverage came from location. Fifth Avenue real estate was scarce and valuable. By securing the land and permits, Trump controlled something competitors desperately wanted. Casinos in Atlantic City. In Atlantic City, Trump leveraged his reputation. Banks and investors wanted to be associated with his growing brand. This gave him favorable financing that others might not have secured. The psychology of leverage works because humans are motivated by both desire and fear. If someone strongly wants what you have, or strongly fears losing it, you hold the upper hand. Trump often made sure people knew he had options. This created psychological pressure. Even if he didn't plan to walk away, the perception that he could gave him negotiating strength. Why most people fail to use leverage: they don't recognize it. Many people have leverage without realizing it. They give it away too soon. By revealing desperation or eagerness, they weaken their position. They fear losing the deal, so they negotiate from weakness instead of strength. Trump avoided these mistakes by staying patient and keeping his cards close. He often said that sometimes the best deal is the one you don't make, a statement that itself creates leverage. Lessons for today's entrepreneurs and professionals in business. A unique product, exclusive contract, or loyal customer base can be leverage. In careers, having multiple job offers is leverage. So is being the only person with a rare skill. In negotiations, silence, patience, and the willingness to walk away are forms of leverage. In life, even relationships rely on balance. Leverage exists whenever one person values something more than the other. Modern forms of leverage today, leverage shows up in new ways. Technology. Owning software or data. Others need. Attention. A large online following is powerful leverage. Networks. Connections to key players can open doors others can't access. Just like Trump used media attention in the 1980s, modern entrepreneurs use social media platforms as leverage. A viral post, a massive subscriber base, or a strong reputation online can tilt negotiations in your favor. Critics of Trump's leverage tactics. Some critics argue that Trump sometimes pushed leverage too aggressively, burning bridges. They claim his confrontational style created enemies as well as allies. But Trump's principle remains solid. If you don't use your leverage, someone else will use theirs against you. Business is rarely about being nice. It's about securing value while keeping relationships that matter intact. Practical steps to apply this principle. Identify your leverage. What do you have that others want? What do they fear losing? Strengthen it. Build exclusivity, scarcity, or reputation around it. Don't show desperation. Never negotiate as if this is your only chance. Create options. More alternatives mean more leverage. Use timing. Sometimes leverage is simply about waiting until the other side needs the deal more than you do. A real-life example. Job negotiation. Imagine you're interviewing for a job. If you have only one offer, the employer controls the leverage. But if you have 3 offers, you can negotiate higher pay or better terms. Even if you only imply that you have other options, the dynamic shifts. This is Trump's philosophy in action. Leverage doesn't always require massive deals. It's a principle you can apply daily. Closing thoughts on using. Leverage is the great equalizer. It allows a smaller player to negotiate with giants, and it allows the ambitious to punch above their weight. Trump mastered leverage by recognizing it, creating it, and using it strategically. Whether in real estate, casinos, or branding, he rarely entered a negotiation without power on his side. And that's the lesson for us. Before you step into any deal, ask yourself, where's my leverage? In the next chapter, we'll explore another critical principle. Enhance your location. Chapter 6. Enhance your location. In real estate, and in business in general, one principle rises above almost all others. Location matters. Donald Trump makes this clear in The Art of the Deal. The value of a property, a brand, or even a personal career is heavily influenced by location. But Trump went beyond simply choosing prime spots. His philosophy was not just to find a good location, but to enhance it, to make it even more valuable than it originally appeared. This principle applies far beyond real estate. It's about seeing hidden potential in something others overlook, then transforming it into something extraordinary. The core idea. Turning weakness into strength. Most people look at a location and see it as fixed. Either it's good or it's bad. Trump rejected that thinking. He believed that with vision, investment, and creativity, you could take a weak location and elevate it. Enhancing a location means asking, what could this place become? How can I change perception? How can I attract attention and demand to this spot? In other words, location is not just physical, it's also psychological. Examples from Trump's career. The Commodore Hotel, Grand Hyatt. The Commodore Hotel was in a struggling part of New York, near Grand Central. Most developers saw it as a dying property. Trump saw an opportunity. By renovating it into the Grand Hyatt, with a gleaming glass facade and modern luxury, he changed the entire perception of the area. Suddenly, what was once undesirable became prestigious. Trump Tower Fifth Avenue was already prime real estate, but Trump knew how to enhance its value. He didn't just build another building, he created an architectural statement with a waterfall, marble, and luxury design. The building itself elevated the location even further. Atlantic City Casinos. Atlantic City was risky, but Trump enhanced his properties with branding, scale, and design. He made sure his casinos weren't just buildings. They were destinations. The psychology of location works on perception. People want to be associated with prestige, convenience, and opportunity. By enhancing a location, Trump wasn't just changing the building, he was changing how people felt about it. This is why a luxury store opening in a neighborhood can change its reputation overnight. It's why tech startups cluster in Silicon Valley. And it's why Trump invested heavily in making his properties symbols, not just structures. Why most people don't enhance locations, short-term thinking. They only see the current state, not the future potential. Fear of investment. Enhancing a location requires bold spending and vision. Lack of imagination. They can't picture how transformation could shift perception. Trump's success came from seeing what others missed. Where most saw decay, he saw opportunity. Where most saw risk, he saw leverage. Lessons for today's entrepreneurs and professionals. Enhancing location applies everywhere, not just in property. Business. Place your business where it gets visibility. If the location is weak, enhance it with branding, marketing, and partnerships. Online presence. Your digital location is your website, your social media, your online reputation. Enhance it with design, credibility, and authority. Career. Where you work, who you work with, and the industries you enter are forms of location. By choosing wisely and enhancing your position, you can increase your value. A modern twist. Digital location. In today's world, physical location is powerful, but digital location may matter even more. Think about it. A top search result on Google is prime location. The first page of YouTube recommendations is prime location. The front page of an app store is prime location. Enhancing your digital location means investing in SEO, design, user experience, and branding. Just as Trump turned overlooked real estate into landmarks, digital entrepreneurs can turn unnoticed platforms into empires. Critics of the location. Some critics argue that location is overrated, that the internet and globalization have made geography less important. While there's some truth in that, perception of location still matters. Even online, visibility is tied to where you show up. Trump's principle remains valid because it's not just about geography. It's about context, positioning, and perception. Practical steps to apply this principle. See beyond the surface. Ask what an area, project, or platform could be, not just what it is. Invest in perception. Marketing, design, and branding can enhance location value. Anchor yourself to prestige. Partner with brands, places, or people that elevate your positioning. Think long-term. Enhancing a location often requires patience. Apply digitally. Treat your online presence as a prime location that must be enhanced. Closing thoughts on enhancing location. Donald Trump built his career not only by finding good spots, but by making them great. He didn't accept the market's current perception. He reshaped it. The lesson for us is clear. Location is never just physical. It's also about visibility, perception, and context. By enhancing your location, whether it's a building, a website, or a career position, you elevate your value and attract bigger opportunities. In the next chapter, we'll explore another critical principle. Get the word out. Marketing and media. Chapter 7. Get the word out. Marketing and media. You can have the best product in the world, the most strategic deal, or the most brilliant idea. But if nobody knows about it, it won't matter. Donald Trump understood this better than most. In The Art of the Deal, he reveals a principle that shaped not only his business but his entire public persona. Get the word out. Trump realized early on that attention is power. Media exposure creates value, builds credibility, and attracts opportunities. For him, publicity was not an afterthought. It was part of the strategy. The core idea: attention as currency. Long before the rise of social media, Trump treated attention like a form of currency. Every article written about him, every mention in the news, every headline about his projects, it all added value to his brand. He knew that perception drives reality. If people believe a project is important, it becomes important. If they believe a building is prestigious, it becomes prestigious. The story shapes the market. Examples from Trump's career. Trump Tower Media Blitz. When Trump Tower opened, it wasn't just another luxury building. Trump made sure the press covered it as a landmark, a symbol of glamour and success. He turned the launch into a media event. The result? Apartments sold quickly, and the tower became synonymous with prestige. Casinos in Atlantic City. Trump didn't just build casinos. He branded them as the place to be. Through media appearances, interviews, and bold advertising, he positioned his casinos as destinations of excitement and luxury. Personal branding. Trump himself became part of the story. He didn't hide behind his projects. He put his name front and center. By making Trump a brand, he ensured that his deals carried extra weight simply because they were associated with him. The psychology of publicity works because people are influenced by what they see and hear repeatedly. When something is in the media, it feels important. When it's absent, it feels irrelevant. Trump leveraged this psychology relentlessly. He didn't wait for people to discover his work. He actively told the world about it, and he told the story in ways that made him look larger than life. Why most people fail to get the word out. They rely only on quality. They believe that if their work is good enough, people will naturally discover it. They fear rejection. They worry about putting themselves in the spotlight. They lack strategy. They treat marketing as an afterthought instead of a core part of the plan. They hate self-promotion. They see publicity as arrogance, not realizing that visibility is survival. Trump embraced publicity shamelessly. He didn't wait for validation. He created it. Lessons for today's entrepreneurs and professionals. In today's world, getting the word out is even more critical. Attention spans are short, and competition is everywhere. Business. If people don't know you exist, you don't exist. Marketing isn't optional. It's survival. Content creators. Visibility is the game. The best video, article, or podcast means nothing without distribution. Careers. Professionals must build personal brands. A strong online presence can open doors to new jobs and partnerships. Investors. Reputation in the market often determines deal flow. Modern tools for getting the word. How Trump had newspapers, magazines, and television. Today, we have even more powerful tools. Social media. Platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn give anyone the ability to broadcast, SEO, and content marketing, getting discovered through search engines. Email. Lists and communities. Building direct relationships with an audience. Podcast and live streams, creating ongoing visibility and authority. In many ways, Trump's principle predicted the influencer economy we see today. Critics of Trump's publicity strategy. Some critics argue that Trump often exaggerated or courted controversy to gain attention. They claim his "any publicity is good publicity" approach sometimes backfired. But Trump believed that silence was worse than criticism. In his world, obscurity was death. Even bad press kept him relevant. And relevance in business is a form of leverage. Practical steps to apply this principle. Craft your story. Decide how you want people to see you or your project. Be consistent. Repeat your message until it sticks. Use multiple channels. Don't rely on one platform. Spread across media. Be bold. Don't be afraid of visibility. Stand out rather than blend in. Control the narrative. Don't let others define you. Tell your own story first. A real-life example. The digital creator, consider a YouTuber with a new channel. If they only upload videos but never promote them, they'll struggle to grow. But if they actively push their content across social media, collaborate with others, and interact with their audience, their reach multiplies. That's exactly what Trump did with his buildings and deals. He didn't let them sit quietly. He broadcast them until the world paid attention. Closing thoughts on getting the word out. At its core, this principle is about visibility. If no one knows who you are or what you do, your chances of success shrink. But if you dominate attention, opportunities find you. Trump mastered the art of media long before social media existed. He proved that in business, perception often creates reality. And the lesson for us is timeless. Don't wait for the world to notice you. Tell your story. Get the word out. In the next chapter, we'll explore another important principle. Fight back. Chapter 8. Fight back in business. As in life, not everything goes smoothly. There will always be critics, competitors, and obstacles. Some people will try to take advantage of you, some will try to block your success, and others will attack, simply because they don't like your rise. In The Art of the Deal, Donald Trump highlights a principle that often surprises people. Fight back. For Trump, standing firm against opposition wasn't optional. It was necessary. He believed that if you allow others to walk over you, they'll keep doing it. But if you push back, you earn respect, protect your position, and set boundaries. The core idea. Strength commands. Respect Trump's philosophy was simple. Business is competitive, and competitors respect strength, not weakness. That doesn't mean you fight every battle. It means you don't let unfairness, dishonesty, or exploitation go unanswered. Sometimes pushing back is the only way to survive. Fighting back isn't about being reckless or aggressive for no reason. It's about showing that you won't be intimidated and that you'll defend your interests. Examples from Trump's career. Legal battles. Trump was no stranger to lawsuits. Some critics saw this as excessive, but Trump saw it as defending his brand. If someone tried to take advantage of him contractually, he fought back in court. This set a precedent. Dealing with Trump meant respecting the deal. Media criticism. Whenever negative press targeted him, Trump rarely stayed silent. He often responded directly, challenging narratives and reframing the story. For him, silence could be mistaken for weakness. Negotiations. In tough negotiations, Trump didn't back down easily. If someone tried to lowball him or pressure him unfairly, he pushed back hard, sometimes walking away entirely. The psychology of fighting back. Why does fighting back matter? Because humans instinctively test boundaries. If someone sees you as passive, they'll push further. If they see you as firm, they're less likely to challenge you again. Fighting back also builds self-confidence. When you stand up for yourself once, it becomes easier the next time. It signals both to you and to others that you're not someone to be underestimated. Why most people avoid fighting back. Fear of conflict. Many people hate confrontation and prefer to stay silent. Desire to please. They don't want to upset others even at their own expense. Short-term thinking. They accept unfair treatment to keep the peace, not realizing it creates bigger problems later. Self-doubt. They don't believe they have the strength or leverage to fight back. Trump's approach was the opposite. He saw confrontation as part of the game. Lessons for today's entrepreneurs and professionals. In business, Don't let competitors copy your ideas without challenge. Protect your intellectual property. In negotiations, if terms are unfair, push back. Respect is built through firmness. In careers, if you're underpaid or mistreated, speaking up is often the only way change happens. In life, boundaries matter in relationships. If you never push back, people may take advantage of your silence. Critics of this approach argue that Trump's fight-back mentality sometimes created unnecessary enemies. They say he escalated conflicts instead of diffusing them. There's some truth to this criticism. Fighting back carries risks. You may burn bridges or lose opportunities. But Trump's philosophy was that reputation and respect mattered more than short-term peace. As he saw it, if you back down once, people will expect you to back down again. Practical steps to apply this principle. Pick your battles. Not every challenge is worth fighting. Save energy for what truly matters. Stay calm but firm. Fighting back doesn't mean losing control. It means holding your ground confidently. Use facts and leverage. Don't rely only on emotion. Back up your defense with information and options. Know when to walk away. Sometimes the best fight is refusing to engage further. Build a reputation for strength. If people know you won't be pushed around, they'll think twice before testing you. A real-life example. The workplace. Imagine you're at work, and a colleague keeps trying to take credit for your ideas. If you stay silent, it will continue. But if you calmly call it out in a meeting, you send a clear message, you respect yourself, and you expect others to respect you too. That's Trump's principle in action. Fighting back doesn't always mean confrontation. Sometimes it just means speaking up. Closing thoughts on fighting back business isn't always polite. Success attracts critics, competitors, and sometimes enemies. If you never fight back, you risk being overlooked, disrespected, or exploited. Donald Trump believed that strength creates respect, and respect creates opportunities. By pushing back when necessary, he protected his brand and reinforced his position. And the lesson for us is simple. Choose your battles wisely, but never let fear of conflict stop you from defending your ground. In the next chapter, we'll explore another vital principle. Deliver the goods. Chapter 10. Contain costs, have fun, and more principles. Not every principle in the art of the deal is about bold moves or aggressive negotiations. Some are about discipline and perspective. Toward the end of the book, Donald Trump shares a few extra rules that may seem simple, but they carry powerful lessons. They can be grouped into three main ideas: contain costs, have fun, and remember the basics. These principles, while less glamorous than think big or use leverage, are essential for sustaining long-term success. The core idea. Success is a balance. Trump believed that boldness must be paired with discipline. You can't only chase growth. You must also control expenses. And you can't only focus on winning deals. You must also enjoy the process. This balance between ambition, discipline, and joy is what makes a career sustainable. Principle 1. Contain costs. Trump was known for big, flashy projects. But behind the scenes, he kept a close eye on expenses. Why? Because no matter how big the revenue, uncontrolled costs can destroy profits. In real estate, this meant negotiating aggressively with contractors. In hotels and casinos, it meant monitoring operations carefully. In business generally, it meant refusing to waste money on unnecessary luxuries. Containing costs doesn't mean being cheap. It means being smart. Trump often said he would spend heavily on areas that mattered, like design or publicity. but cut ruthlessly on areas that didn't add value. Modern lesson. For entrepreneurs today, this means automate tasks instead of hiring prematurely. Outsource strategically instead of building bloated teams. Focus resources where they actually impact customers. Principle 2. Have fun. One of Trump's more surprising principles is simple. Enjoy what you're doing. Business, at its best, should be exciting. Deals are like puzzles to solve, opportunities to chase, and challenges to overcome. Trump admitted that the money was great, but what truly drove him was the thrill of the game. The fun kept him energized through stress and setbacks. Why fun matters. E. Creates resilience during hard times. It keeps energy levels high. It prevents burnout. It attracts others. People are drawn to leaders who clearly enjoy what they do. For Trump, work wasn't just work. It was play at the highest level. Principle 3. Stick to the basics. Finally, Trump emphasized not overcomplicating things. Many entrepreneurs get lost in theories, complex strategies, or endless meetings. Trump preferred simplicity. Know your market. Negotiate hard. Protect the downside. Deliver results. He believed that sticking to the fundamentals was often more powerful than chasing new trends or overthinking. Modern lesson. In today's digital age, basics still matter. Fancy tools and complex funnels mean nothing if your product doesn't solve a problem, your brand doesn't stand out, and your execution isn't solid. The psychology of discipline and joy combining. These principles creates balance. Discipline. Contain costs, ensures you don't self-destruct financially. Joy, have fun, ensures you don't burn out emotionally. Simplicity, stick to basics, ensures you don't drown in complexity. Together, they form the foundation for sustainable success. Why most people fail here. Overspending. They confuse growth with extravagance. Forgetting joy. They treat business as a grind, losing motivation, overcomplicating. They chase shiny objects instead of sticking to what works. Trump avoided these traps by staying focused on what mattered most. Lessons for entrepreneurs and professionals. Today, startups. Manage costs carefully. Don't burn through funding without proof of demand. Careers. Choose paths you enjoy, not just those that pay. Life, simplicity, balance, and joy apply beyond business. They shape fulfillment itself. Practical steps to apply these principles. Audit your costs. Cut what doesn't add value. Inject fun. Find the parts of your work that excite you and lean into them. Simplify your focus. Identify the few fundamentals that drive results, and prioritize them. Closing thoughts on containing costs, having fun, and the basics. These final principles may seem smaller compared to think big or use leverage, but they're what keep the machine running. They ensure that ambition doesn't lead to collapse and that success remains enjoyable instead of exhausting. Donald Trump built his career not only on bold vision, but also on discipline and a sense of play. And the lesson for us is clear. Balance matters. Spend wisely, enjoy the game, and never forget the basics. In the final chapter, we'll bring everything together and explore the lasting impact of the art of the deal. Chapter 9. Deliver the goods. You can dream big, protect the downside, maximize your options, and get all the publicity in the world. But none of it matters if you can't deliver the goods. In The Art of the Deal, Donald Trump stresses this principle as one of the cornerstones of long-term success. Deals, negotiations, and marketing bring attention, but results build credibility. And in business, credibility is currency. Trump understood that while hype could open doors, performance was what kept them open. The core idea: performance builds reputation. Anyone can make promises, but few can consistently deliver. That's why execution is so valuable. It separates those who rise in the long run from those who burn out after a brief moment of hype. Delivering the goods means finishing projects on time, meeting or exceeding new expectations, turning words into reality. It's the difference between being known as someone who talks big and someone who gets things done. Examples from Trump's career. Tower Trump promised luxury, prestige, and innovation. When the tower opened, it delivered on that promise, from the marble interiors to the famous waterfall in the lobby. The building didn't just meet expectations, it set a new standard for New York luxury real estate. The Grand Hyatt Hotel UAE renovation of the old Commodore Hotel was more than cosmetic. Trump transformed a failing property into one of New York's most popular hotels, proving that he could take on big projects and deliver results. Casino ventures. While not all of Trump's casinos succeeded long-term, their openings were spectacles that showcased his ability to turn plans into physical reality. He proved that he could move from concept to execution at massive scale. The psychology of delivery. Why does delivering matter so much? Because people remember results. They may forget promises, but they don't forget experiences. A satisfied customer tells others. A successful project creates new opportunities. A track record of delivery builds trust, the most powerful asset in business. When you deliver consistently, people begin to believe in your future promises too. Why many fail to deliver: overpromising. They commit to more than they can realistically achieve. Poor planning. They underestimate time, costs, or complexity. Lack of discipline. They chase new ideas without finishing the old ones. Excuses. Instead of owning responsibility, they blame circumstances. Trump believed that excuses destroy credibility. Even if setbacks occur, results matter more than explanations. Lessons for today's entrepreneurs and professionals business. Customers care less about your vision and more about what you actually deliver. Startups. Investors don't just want ideas, they want working products. Careers. Promotions come not from promises, but from consistent performance. Content creators. A viral video can create attention, but sustained delivery builds loyal audiences. Modern application, digital delivery in. The online world, delivery is faster and more public than ever. E-commerce, customers expect fast shipping and reliable products. Fail once and reviews can damage your brand. Apps and software, updates and bug fixes must be consistent. Users leave quickly if you fail to deliver. Social media. Audiences reward creators who consistently show up with value. Execution, in today's economy, is visible to the entire world. Critics of Trump's execution. Style critics argue that Trump sometimes overpromised or delivered with more emphasis on image than substance. They point to projects that faced financial struggles or fell short of expectations. But even his critics admit he delivered often enough at a large enough scale to build a lasting reputation, and that reputation opened doors to even bigger opportunities. Practical steps to apply this principle. Under-promise, over-deliver. Commit to slightly less. Deliver slightly more. Plan rigorously. Anticipate challenges before they arise. Stay focused. Finish current projects before chasing new ones. Build systems. Delivery is easier when you have repeatable processes. Protect your reputation. Every project adds or subtracts from your credibility. A real-life example. Freelancing. Imagine a freelancer hired to design a website. If they miss deadlines, give excuses, or fail to meet expectations, the client won't hire them again. But if they deliver early with high quality, the client not only returns but also refers them to others. That's delivering the goods in action. Closing thoughts on delivering the goods. Trump's deals and publicity may have attracted attention, but it was his ability to deliver results that cemented his reputation. Without performance, everything else collapses. The lesson for us is simple. Your credibility is your greatest asset. Protect it by delivering what you promise, and whenever possible, delivering more than expected. In the next chapter, we'll explore another principle that keeps success sustainable. Contain costs, have fun, and more principles. Conclusion. The lasting impact of The Art of the Deal. When The Art of the Deal was published in 1987, few could have predicted the extraordinary influence it would have, not only on Donald Trump's career, but also on the way millions of readers around the world think about business, negotiation, and success. Decades later, the book still sells. People continue to quote it, study it, and debate it. Whether admired or criticized, it refuses to fade into obscurity. And that's because the principles inside it are bigger than Trump himself. They touch on timeless truths about ambition, risk, leverage, and human behavior. Why the book endures. The lessons in The Art of the Deal remain relevant for one simple reason. Human nature doesn't change. People will always be drawn to bold visions. Negotiations will always revolve around leverage. Markets will always reward those who understand them. Success will always require execution, not just talk. Technology changes, industries evolve, but these fundamentals remain constant. That's why a book written in the 1980s still feels fresh to readers today. The principles in review. Let's briefly revisit the core lessons we've explored. Think big. Aim for goals that inspire, not ones that bore. Protect the downside. Risk is inevitable, but survival is essential. Maximize your options. Choices equal power. Never get trapped. Know your market. Information is strength. Assumptions are weakness. Use leverage. Influence comes from having what others want. Enhance your location. Perception transforms value. Get the word out. Attention creates opportunity. Fight back. Strength earns respect. Weakness invites. Exploitation. Deliver the goods. Results are the foundation of credibility. Contain costs, have fun, and stick to the basics. Discipline, joy, and simplicity sustain long-term success. Each principle is simple on its own, but combined, they form a powerful framework for thinking and acting strategically in business and in life. The impact on Trump's career. For Donald Trump, the book was more than advice. It was branding. The Art of the Deal transformed him from a New York real estate developer into a national personality. Suddenly, he wasn't just known in business circles, he was a household name. That visibility paved the way for television appearances, partnerships, and eventually a political career. Love him or hate him, it's impossible to deny. The book amplified his influence far beyond real estate. The impact on readers' millions. Of readers found value in its lessons. For some, it provided practical business insights. For others, it was inspiration. A push to think bigger, negotiate harder, and take bolder risks. Even critics admit that the book has shaped conversations about ambition and negotiation for decades. It sparked debate, but it also sparked action. Applying. The lessons today, in our modern world, how can we apply these principles? Entrepreneurs can use them to launch and scale startups. Professionals can use them to negotiate salaries, promotions, and career opportunities. Creators can use them to build personal brands and capture attention. Everyday people can use them to think more strategically about money, choices, and relationships. The power of the book lies in its adaptability. You don't need to be building skyscrapers to apply Think Big, and you don't need to own casinos to understand leverage. These ideas work at every level. Critics and controversy, of course. The Art of the Deal has its critics. Some argue that Trump exaggerated his achievements, or that the book was more self-promotion than substance. Others point out that not every deal he made was successful. But here's the key. The enduring relevance of the book proves that the ideas inside it transcend any single person's career. Even if Trump didn't always follow his own advice perfectly, the advice itself still resonates. The final lesson: the mindset of a deal maker. Perhaps the greatest takeaway from The Art of the Deal is not any single principle, but the overall mindset it teaches. It's a mindset of boldness, resilience, and creativity. It's about looking at situations differently, seeing opportunities others miss, and refusing to be limited by conventional thinking. This mindset is what makes the book powerful. It encourages readers to approach life as a game of strategy, a game you can win if you understand the rules. Closing thoughts. The Art of the Deal is not just a book about real estate or business. It's a book about vision, strategy, and the psychology of success. For Donald Trump, it was both a manual and a marketing tool. For readers, it remains a source of ideas, inspiration, and debate. And for history, it stands as one of the most famous business books ever written. The ultimate lesson? Dream big, protect yourself, stay flexible, know your market, use leverage, enhance your position, get attention, defend yourself, deliver results, and never forget the basics. Do that consistently, and you'll not only make deals, you'll make a life that matters. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Donald Trump. The Art of the Deal. This book isn't just about real estate or business, it's about mindset. It's about thinking bigger than most people dare, protecting yourself from risk, and learning how to turn opportunities into results. Whether you agree with Trump or not, one thing is clear. The principles in this book are timeless, and they can be applied to almost any area of life. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which principle stood out the most to you? Was it think big, use leverage, or maybe deliver the goods? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one of them. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next deep dive into powerful books that can change the way you think about business, money, and success. And if you want to keep learning, check out the other summaries on this channel. You'll find more timeless lessons from some of the world's most influential books. Thanks for watching, and remember, success starts with the way you think. So think big, act bold, and keep moving forward. Until next time.